Great Writers Media.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking to Beverly Saltonstall. She is the acclaimed author of Cape Coral, Burrowing Owls, Don't Give a Hoot. It is a comprehensive exploration of the burrowing owls of Cape Coral, Florida. Through her insightful narrative, she takes a deep dive into the owls' fascinating lives, interspersed with her own personal anecdotes and findings. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Great Writers Media for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her wonderful book. Beverly, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. How did you first become acquainted with these burrowing owls?
Well, I moved from New Jersey to Cape Coral in Florida, and I'm an early bird, not to be funny, but I was up early roaming around town to see where I lived. I'd never really been there much before we purchased our house. So I'm riding around, and I happened to spot this empty lot, and there was a cross there, wooden cross, and on top of it was this little bird standing there. And I'm saying, what in the world is that, So I stopped, and I'm watching him watch me. He's watching me. He wasn't 10 feet from the edge of the road, and he wasn't concerned that I was there. He just kind of looked at me, and I watched him for a while and had no idea what it was. So I left, and my route took me back that way again, and he was still there. I said, what in the world is this bird? So I went home, and we were busy with the new house. And a couple of days later in the newspaper, there was an article from the city looking for volunteers to help with the burrowing owls in town. I said, okay, what's a burrowing owl? So I looked it up, and sure enough, that's what I saw. So I said, well, that's right up my alley, because on my bucket list was to join some sort of outdoor birding group, maybe Audubon or something like that, because I'm very interested in birding. So I said, well, I'm going to go to this meeting. So we met at a park. We sat at a park bench, and the woman from the city came, and she said, well, we have this world's largest population of the burrowing owl, the subspecies of the Florida burrowing owls living in our town. I said, wow, that's cool. So it turns out that when Cape Coral was developed in the late 50s, they came in with bulldozers and proceeded to bulldoze the entire 100 square miles of this peninsula that sticks off the side of Florida. And burrowing owls happen to like disturbed areas, one of the few birds that do like disturbed areas, and they like open prairie. So prior to that, Cape Coral was wooded in the northern part and wetlands in the bottom of it. So it was probably not habitat for them. They don't know if there were burrowing owls there at the time. There may have been, but not very many of them. And once they saw this miles and miles of wide open spaces with sandy soil, it was like, the Hilton for them. So they started moving in, and they thrived. They were thriving there. So that's kind of how I got involved. The federal government has a Migratory Bird Act, and all the birds that migrate from Canada to the United States were protected by this law. It was instituted like 1917, and it has expanded to Japan, Mexico, and all now. So almost all birds are protected in the United States. The feathers are protected, the eggs are protected, the nests are protected, as well as the birds. So these birds are protected because they do not migrate, but the ones out west do. So they fall under that the auspices of this thing. So what was happening was, when they developed the city, the developers went to Europe mostly to sell properties. So we have a big German population in town, and then they went all over the United States, just recruiting people to come to Cape Coral to buy land. So many of these people were not coming in on weekends to mow their lawns or their grass or whatever, native plants or weeds, whatever was growing on their properties. So the city was getting to be pretty ratty looking. So they went out and bought these gigantic lot mowers, and they have these blades that just fall down, and they can do a swath of land in a couple swipes. And they would send the people a bill for $7, and everybody was happy. Except these lots where these owls were living The lot mowers couldn't see them because they're tiny. They're only like 7 to 9 inches tall. They're little guys. And if they did see them, they didn't realize that the burrows can be 10 foot long. So even if they went around these little owls, they still could be running over the chamber where the mother and the babies and the eggs and all were. So Fish and Wildlife came down and told the city that you have to do something about this. You have to protect these birds. So they said, okay, what are we going to do? They said, well, you need to put stakes around them. So at the time, the city was pretty much in build mentality mode. And anybody that was in City Hall was either a contractor, realtor, builder, some form of building and expanding the city, except one woman who loved the owls. So they said, well, Sue Scott, if you like these owls, you go out and mark these burrows. So they gave her some wooden stakes and a hammer and told her to go out and mark the burrows in town. So 8 years later, we did a study. We went on the entire city and counted all the burrows, and we had 2,700 burrows then. So how many there were when Sue Scott started this, we don't know, but it had to be 1,000, at a low level. So we have no idea. But she went out and she started doing that. And she would put these stakes up. Well, if you know anything about Florida, you put wood in the ground and it rots. Mm-hmm. So she was going back to replace them after a while. So one of the ladies in the city had an owl that lived across the street from her in an empty lot. And she would watch the lot mower come, scare the bejesus out of this poor little guy. He'd fly off and wait till the lot mower left, come back, And she says, that's awful. We have to do something. So her and her friend marched down to City Hall to see what they could do. And they talked to Sue Scott, and she said, well, that's what I do. So they finally got the city to agree to let them, these two women, start marking or start cleaning up these burrows. And that's how that started. So Sue Scott and these women had this meeting to get volunteers to help with these burrowing owls because it was a big project. So we had training classes on how to walk around the burrow and not collapse it, and how to protect them from, not to get them to fly off and get into some predators, cars or stuff. So that's how it all started. And that's how Cape Coral Friends of Wildlife began. And we're the ragtag group of 500 people that look after these owls now.
Amazing. It's an amazing story about an amazing bird. Tell us a little bit more about the bird itself. It actually burrows in the ground, along the ground, or deep into the ground. Tell us a little bit about it.
There's about 250 different kind of owls in the world. And these are the only ones, the burrowing owls are the only ones that live underground. They're fairly shallow, depends on what they hit when they start digging, but they can be only a foot deep, but like I said, 10 foot long. So any place where there's sand, like Florida is ideal for them because of our sandy soil. Out west, they tend to take over prairie dog burrows or armadillo burrows or any other creature that does dig burrows. They'll use their burrows. So the Florida burrows are even more unique than the western burrows. They're out during the day. It's called diurnal, which means they're out all day. So normally if you want to go see an owl, you get up at 9 o'clock at night and you go with a flashlight looking for pellets on the ground to see where you can hopefully spot an owl. Well, these guys are out all day. They sit on that perch, that little wooden perch that Cape Coral Friends of Wildlife put up for them. And the male's out there guarding that burrow all day. So you can come at 6 o'clock in the morning, just after sunrise, get your photos, or come 7 o'clock at night and take your photos. So it's a unique situation for birds. Usually they're very hard to find. These guys are out all the time.
Do they give their traditional hoot that we expect from an owl?
No, that's why my book's called They Don't Hoot. That's a
Tell
funny
us a little
story
bit about
too,
the sounds they make.
Well, that's even funnier. They make sounds like a homing pigeon or a ground owl, a pigeon. It's like a cuckoo, cuckoo. And the males do that all night while they look for a female. And if you know anything about Florida, most of our visitors are here in January, February, March. That's nesting season. So that's when the males start looking for females if they don't already have one. And of course, our houses are, especially in Cape Coral, we have 400 miles of canals. So our houses are designed where our living areas are in the back of the house on the canals, and our guest rooms and stuff are on the front. So we had guests one year, and we don't have the air conditioner on because it's beautiful weather then. So we
Mhm.
had the windows open. Well, this male was on, I had them living on my front lawn, these owls, and the male was looking for his mate, and he cuckooed all night. Well, my
Amazing.
guests, my neighbors, and everybody else were going to fricassee him and me, you know. But that's one of the major songs. The little babies make a sound like a rattlesnake to
Hmm.
keep predators away. So it, that's kind of a little scary. I've never
Yeah.
heard it. A lot of my friends have heard it. So that's another sound. But they may have a, an alarm call. They'll call if somebody gets too close to the babies. They'll start an alarm call to get them back in the burrow. So
Very
they have
interesting.
quite
This
a
canal
vocabulary.
system you mentioned in Cape Coral poses challenges for the owls, correct?
Well, not really. Just finding them because Cape Coral's a nightmare to drive in because they think they had a little too much spirits when they designed the city. But no, they're not birds. They don't like water, so they don't. They tend to stay in the front of our houses by the streets where the street lights are, so they can catch bugs. So they don't really go in the water. Every now and again, one falls in. We had one lady do CPR on one after it fell in the canal, but they don't go. They don't particularly go towards the canals. That's not part of their habitat. So,
Are you still working with the owls?
oh yeah, I do lectures. I'm doing another Zoom meeting on Thursday for a school in northern Florida. So I do Zoom presentations all over the country because it's quite a popular. The book Hoot actually was written by Carl Hyacin, and he was a journalist for the Miami Herald, and
Mhm.
he wrote a whole lot of books. Many of them were made into movies. Well, his books are an adult crime comedy genre, but the underlying currents are all problems of Florida, whether it be our tourists, our sugar industry, politics, our pythons, or whatever. Well, he found out his nieces and nephews couldn't really read his books because they have, some murder stuff in them. He has no qualms about putting somebody in a leaf chipper to get rid of a body or something. But his books are fun to read, actually.
I'm
So
sure.
he wrote this book called Hoot, and the book is about Cape Coral's burrowing owls and the problems that you have with building. And that these people were trying to build a pancake house on a lot that had a burrowing owl living on it. And these three kids got together and they tried to prevent the construction and all the antics they went through to do this. So, of course, it's a quasi true book and a fiction, But the title is not true because these owls don't hoot. That's not one of their calls.
Hence your
So
book, Cape Coral, Florida
yeah,
Owls
so
Don't Give a Hoot.
it was the original title was The Cute and Quirky Owls of Cape Coral. And I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, nope, I'm going to change the name of the title. And I changed it to Cape Coral Burrowing Owls Don't Hoot. So I sent it off to Amazon. And a couple days later, I got an email from a kid in Ohio. He said, I read the book Hoot. I watched the movie with Jimmy Buffett. And he said, I have to see these owls. So I sent him a map, told him where to find them, how to find them. And he sends me an email back. He says, oh, what a great time I had. That was so great. Well, they were just super cool. And he said, but the only problem was, I says, what? He says, they don't hoot. Well, I started laughing. I said, you've got to be kidding. I said, I just sent my book off, and that's the title of the book. I said, I'm going to save your email in case I get into trouble with Carl Hyacin.
That's
So
funny.
that's how the kind of the title got its name because of,
It's a great book, and the title kind of works both ways. They don't give a hoot how careful you want to manicure your lawn. They need a place to live also. So that's
right,
great.
right.
What made you decide to write this book?
Well, because they needed to be preserved. Everything going by the way of extinction and everything. So I wrote the book so we have a good, solid book of all their information, all about them. Because we have a lot of children's book. People have written a lot of children's books about them, but there was no like a textbook,
Hmm.
that somebody could go for reference. We have people coming from all over the world to see these birds from South Africa, Sweden, UK, Canada, and they come into town and they don't know anything about the owls, but they know of them. People say you got to go to Cape Coral, you got to see a burrowing owl, go to Cape Coral, and they don't really know about them. So this book tells them everything. Tells them how to
Wonderful.
drive in Cape Coral, where to stay, but everything from everything they would want to know. And then we have people that move into Cape Coral who buy a lot and find out they have a burrowing owl living on their front lawn. What do we do? What do we feed it? What do we do with this thing? And so that gives them the information that they need for that. And then we have people who are environmentalists and they want a burrowing owl living on their front lawn. So it tells them how they can attract the burrowing owl to their front lawn. And then, we have photographers coming in all the time. We have actual people that run photography classes that go all over the world and country, and they will come to Cape Coral with their group just to photograph the owls. So, they come there and, well, they don't know about the owls, but they know of them, but not about them. So this book will tell them everything they want to know.
Awesome. Let's give the folks watching a little bit of a teaser. Where is the best place to go see the owls if you do travel to Cape Coral?
Okay. In the book, I talk about Pelican Ball Field. We have a baseball soccer complex in town on Pelican Boulevard. Hence it gets its name. And that's one. As a matter of fact, the photo in the back is taken from there. And there's a lot of them there. There's on every corner of the ball field is a burrow. So it's a good place to go there. It's guaranteed to see them. But
wonderful.
That's what they would
And
look
evening
for.
is the best time, right at sunset or right before?
No.
Or?
Anytime during the day, but the harsh sun of Florida doesn't make good photographs at noontime. But early in the morning, they're up, early in the morning. So first light for photos or late evening. But anytime, you can go to Cape Coral anytime, day or night, and see them.
Now, it seems like the owl population there is actually thriving. So it's not really an endangered species, or is it? Tell us a little bit about that.
It was a species of special concern till about 3 years ago, and then they upped it to threatened, which actually was a good thing because, before they really weren't paying attention to them. They really kind of care about them and, they were a nuisance. Well, now they're really more protected. They're following the guidelines that the state of Florida puts out as far as how far away you have to stay from them. And the police now have the ability to do something about it. Because before we had to call Fish and Wildlife if we had a problem with them. If somebody was doing some damage to them, we had to call Fish and Wildlife. And if they were out in their boats were checking out manatees, it would take them 2 days to get there. The problem would have been absolved or, gone. So now we can call even code enforcement and have them come out right away if there's a problem. If somebody's parking too close to the burrow or something. So that has really, really helped them in the long run. But in the longer run, if they become endangered, and if the state of Florida puts them as an endangered species because they're endangered statewide, well, when you have the Endangered Species Act, there's a lot of restrictions on building. So we're trying to be proactive and take care of these owls now, because if they get to be endangered, who knows what the rules are going to be. You may not ever be able to build in Cape Coral again. Because there's if you have a burrow on the lawn, or on the property, you don't necessarily have to have an owl if there's a burrow. So, that's something to be looked at and thought about. So we don't know where that would go if they did ever become endangered. So that's why we work really, really hard. We have a subgroup that is part of our club that is purchasing land, and they've purchased over 55 lots already that, are kind of useless lots, you can't build on them. And so they've been purchasing them, and several people have donated their lots, and they're preserving them for the owls and the gopher tortoises we have in town. So it's so at least that we have a land preserved for them for perpetuity.
Well, this is a big change from New Jersey with all of the wildlife you have around you in Cape Coral, right?
Yes, it is different.
Absolutely.
Different.
Was there anything surprising you learned when writing and researching your book?
Yeah, I guess I've been working with them for 20 years, so I did know quite a bit about them. The more thing was that it changed my whole life, because I'm a nurse. I'm a registered nurse, and my degree is in health education and school nursing, because that's the degree they offered at the time. But I worked in a hospital, and we had to do student teaching, or they told us we should do student teaching at the end of the degree. And I said, not me. I'm not talking to anybody. Forget it, So over the years, I got involved in a couple little things. But when I've joined Cape Coral Friends of Wildlife, the president moved, and there was nobody that was giving talks because she was doing them all. So he said, well, really, why don't you do them? I said, what are you, crazy? I said, no, I'm not doing that. They finally conned me into it. I said, all right, I will do talks, but I'm only doing adults. I'm not doing kids because they're special. You got to teach them different, and I'm not doing that. So the first call we get was from this Catholic Church, the Science Club, and they wanted somebody to come talk to the kids. I said, oh, good grief. I said, all right, I'll go. I had such a good time with those kids because they were interested. They were science class, so it wasn't a bunch of kids that didn't give a hoot about owls. So they were really interested. I had so much fun with those kids. I said, well, maybe this isn't so bad. And then my friend, one of the other members of the club, she calls me. She says, Beverly, I just booked you on a talk to go to the Audubon Society in Venice, Florida, which is about an hour and a half from us. I said, what are you, crazy? I said, the gods of birding. I said, what did you do that for? She said, well, they wanted us to come talk. And so we're going up there. I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, I need a couple of Valiums and a 6-pack of beer to go with me. I said, why did you do that? I can't talk to them. She said, just go. We're going. So we went up. We actually brought our husbands with us. They invited us to dinner. So she and I went to dinner. They paid for our dinners and our husbands came with us. And they said, well, we're going to be in the we're going to be in our community center. That's where we're meeting. I said, okay. They gave us directions. I'm imagining this little building or something. I get there. It's a big building, got marble floors, lions spitting water out of the walls, a big AV room with elevated seating, AV equipment all over the place. My friend's name is Pasha. I said, Pasha, I'm going to kill you. I said, I'm up to 2 packs of beer now and 6 Valium. I said, oh, she said, Beverly, just shut up and tell them everything you know about the owls. Get up there. I thought, oh, so I took a deep breath and I got up there and I told them everything I knew about the burrowing owls, which was, a while ago. So I didn't know quite as much. And I said, I got over it. And I see these people walking up towards me. I said, oh, here we go, So I said, wow, this was so interesting. Could we come down and see the owls? I said, well, sure. Well, 35 of them came down. The caravan down, and I had a ball with them. I mean, they didn't know anything about these owls, and I said, well, I do. I said, this isn't so bad. So that's how I got my speaking career started. Now I told anybody.
That's great. Well, you're a terrific speaker. You're very articulate. You're very eloquent. And I think it's getting past that fear stage of public speaking. Yes. Once you realize people want to hear what you have to say, that you have information to give them, that you're not going to be stumped because you know the topic very, very well, you become relaxed, you become confident. Like you are today, you're doing a great job. Let me ask you, is there anywhere in captivity, we don't want to see wild birds in captivity, but sometimes they have to be, there's a sanctuary or something. Is there anywhere we could see one at a zoo or a sanctuary up close?
I know San Diego Zoo has them. I know that because they sell checkbooks with the owls on them. But yeah, the San Diego Zoo, the British Columbia has a big a building. They have a whole thing over there, a conservatory that they work with the burrowing owls up in British Columbia. And where else?
Well, that's a good start. That's a good start.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
whenever I'm in the Tampa area, there's the Suncoast Primate Sanctuary that has a lot of apes and monkeys and things like that. And it's a great place to get up and close with these rescued apes and monkeys. So I was wondering.
Punta Gorda, Florida has a rescue place also. They actually have an albino one that's all white.
Very, very interesting.
If you're going to Punta Gorda, you might as well come to Cape Coral, see them live.
Yep, absolutely. I'd imagine you think that this book is going to give readers a new perspective on the birds and also help them have a new appreciation for this wonderful species and preserving it, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. That's why I wrote the book, because, I really want people to know about them. When they come into town to see them, I said, they're so surprised at their size. They don't expect them to be so small at all. And it's just, they're just such a unique bird. They're not like any other birds. You see a bird in a tree, you scare it and it flies off. Well, these guys fly down,
Yeah.
You get to see them, and they run. They don't. They do fly, but a lot of times they run to catch their prey during the day. So they're fun to watch, and you'll see them. We'll go over there and we'll be watching them, and the female or males out there, and they'll be either house cleaning or extending the burrow. But you see sand flying out of the burrow while they're extending it, and so they just have so many quirky little things. And then there's the decoration, which is absolutely the most fun thing about these birds is the male. That's his job is to protect this burrow. That's his lifelong job. And he brings stuff to the burrow at the beginning of nesting season. It can be anything from hamburger wrappers, tube socks, cigarette butts, plant buds, kids' homework, bank receipts. I mean, you name it, they bring it. And the older the male, the better he decorates his burrow. So you have an older male, and you have some interesting stuff there. And the reason they do this is twofold. One's to keep the other males away, and they also collect animal feces, mostly dog poop. And there's two reasons for that. One is to attract insects to that feces, and then he uses it to feed the female while she's in the burrow with the eggs and the young. And then when the babies are born, that's where they teach them to hunt. So they have a source of bugs, and they can teach them to hunt. So if there's predators around, they can get them, back into the burrow real quick, so they're not off wandering someplace away from the burrow where they can get picked off by a hawk or something. Mm. So it's kind of fun. The owls on my front lawn went on my neighbor's boat and took his lucky fishing towel and brought it to the burrow. And they practiced what I call owl feng shui. And for 3 days, they worked to see where they were going to exactly put that towel. So every day he'd wake up and it'd be in a different place. So he comes over and he recognizes his towel. I said, well, forget it. You're not getting it back because I'm not taking it away from them. Exactly. Well, one of the biologists was at a burrow doing her research and stuff, and she found 2 pair of ladies' underwear there. Wow. One blue and red silk underwear. So you never know what you're going to find.
Right.
2 years ago, we had one burrow that had the blue CDC masks, for the COVID thing. And then the owls decided they were going to dig another burrow. So they dug a burrow almost 6 feet away. And so they were following CDC guidelines. But I kind of give a little off the cuff award to the best decorated burrow every year. So one school got it for the biggest candy wrapper collection. They had every candy wrapper known to man in that burrow. So it's real fun to watch. And
I'm sure.
Yeah, around the beginning of nesting season, we start getting phone calls from people because these people have their routes. They walk their dogs every day. They do their thing, and they start calling. They say, "We want a police officer over here. Somebody threw garbage in our burrow. Get somebody out here. I want him arrested. Who could do?" And you calm down. It's the owls doing this. No. There's a whole T-shirt there. No, it's garbage. No, it's the owls. They do it. Yes, there's a T-shirt. They brought it, and the people just have a hard time understanding that. Yes, it's the owls doing this. And then when the babies start to fly, it's gone. Like I wake up one morning, it's gone. It's totally
amazing. Amazing. Well, we're really happy that you wrote this book. It is called Cape Coral Burrowing Owls Don't Give a Hoot. If you read this book, it's going to let you in on a part of life you probably know nothing about. And it's really fascinating, as you've heard Beverly speak today about these wonderful birds. They have really cute, quirky habits. They're endangered, maybe not officially, but they need to be preserved. And we thank her for her work as well as spreading the word about them in this great book. You'll really enjoy it. It'll make you want to go take a trip to Cape Coral, Florida to see these beautiful owls. Once again, the name of the book is Cape Coral Burrowing Owls Don't Give a Hoot. And that's because they don't give a hoot. Beverly, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Can I show my shirt real quick?
Oh, absolutely.
My shirt.
There you go.
Here.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great. That's terrific.
That's how it looks like.
They're beautiful. Very nice. Very nice. Well, thanks for joining us here today on Spotlight. We truly appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for having me. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed this.
And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.
Visit www.greatwritersmedia.com. Email us at info@greatwritersmedia.com. Call us at 877-600-5469. Subscribe now.